Hey there, Pink Lanterns. I'm the Comics Kid 2099, and I'm here to talk about an episode of Green Lantern, the animated series titled In Love and War. If you haven't seen the episode, there will be lots of spoilers in this quick plot synopsis before I get into the review itself, so go watch it if you're inclined to. Kilowog is moping about the girl he met last episode for all of 20 minutes, and the Interceptor is attacked by a monster. They are saved by members of the Star Sapphire Corps, who offer to throw a banquet for the crew of the Interceptor. Turns out the Star Sapphires are sending rings to ladies in love, such as Kilowog's lady friend, and then using their new recruits to trap their lovers in pink amber because men cause war and other problems. Carol Ferris is recruited from Earth, finds out her lover Hal is actually Green Lantern, and rejects the ring and teaches one of the Sapphires that love is more than trapping your man in a block of amber. The crew of the Interceptor gets away, and the niece of the Sapphire Queen will, in theory, teach her sisters what love really is. I've mentioned before that I am not a fan of every color known to man having its own space corps devoted to a particular emotion or ideal. I think it's incredibly reductive of how humans behave, since no living entity lives entirely off rage or avarice or love or whatever. Humans, all humans, are complex creatures and act on any number of combined emotions and such. So reducing Lex Luthor down to just avarice is plain dumb, because he also has rage in his heart towards Superman, and depending on which version of Lex you're talking about, love for his sister. Not to mention, while willpower is very important to the Green Lantern Corps, it is not the most important aspect of being a Green Lantern. When the ring chooses Hal, it does not choose the person with the strongest willpower. It chooses someone who is worthy of carrying the ring and will use it justly. We see this in action in the episode Heir Apparent. Ayolande's brother certainly had a very stubborn will, but the ring never went to him because he was evil. Now, we're told that will corresponds to the power of a given lantern, but this also is seemingly nonsense, since no matter how strong the will of a given lantern, they still have to recharge their ring every 24 hours. So for all of the other cores to be based entirely on compassion or fear or hope, that's just kinda silly. So bringing in the different cores in this series is not something I'm all that into, even sporadically. But you might say that Star Sapphire predates the existence of a billion different cores and was part of the Silver Age Green Lantern status quo. Heck, there was even a Star Sapphire that fought Flash in the Golden Age, decades before Geoff Johns, progenitor of the billion different cores, was even born. But this episode is specifically using the Star Sapphires as a core, so it inherently is bringing with it the faulty premise of the many different cores into this episode, which means that I'm not all that keen on this episode. Ignoring for a second the Sapphires being powered by love, or whatever that means, we've got Kilowog acting like Juliet Capulet because a girl he met last episode is on her homeworld and he's here. And maybe this is my cold, crusty heart that doesn't believe in romantic love talking, but boo freaking who, Kilowog? You just met her! I would not have wanted the series to add someone else to the cast, as that would have complicated the balance that we have now, and I doubt this chick would have added much more to this series if she was traveling with the group. But with her only being in one episode, and us not really getting to know anything at all about her, it's hard for me to care when Kilowog gets a case of the weepies because they can't hold hands with each other. We also get some forward momentum on the Hal Carol ship, but that feels like a big waste of an episode since Carol is literally on the other side of the universe and doesn't really factor that much into this series. Yes, she will be back a few times in this series, but overall, she's not that important in this series. So devoting an episode to these two kissing and her finding out who Hal is, it doesn't really carry much weight since this series isn't set on Earth and we won't get to see any of the aftermath of this reveal. Now, I should mention I don't hate Carol here, and if this series had gotten a second season, I would have been very interested in seeing her and Hal struggle with a relationship or lack thereof. But in the context of a Lost in Space type series, trying to build dramatic tension around this just is not working for me. Remember in my review of Fear Itself when I said that we had to have elements in that episode introduced for the larger arc of the entire series, but as an episode, it just wasn't working? Well, that's very much the same thing we've got here. The Sapphire Corps will play a larger role later on, so we kinda air quotes needed this episode, but by itself, it's not very good. Except I think this is worse than Fear Itself. I hate to say it, but this might be the worst episode of the entire series so far. I cannot think of an episode that could be worse at the moment. Now, fortunately, even at its worst, the series is not vomit-inducing, unwatchable nonsense. It's still a fun little Green Lantern adventure, but it's nowhere near as gripping as some of the episodes we've had so far. But I remain hopeful that this series can get back on track with the episode we'll be talking about next week. So that's my review. I hope you guys liked the episode better than I did, and I hope you liked my review. If you did, be sure to pound that like button, and also leave comments if you're into that sort of thing. In the meantime, I do videos throughout the week, and as I mentioned, I'll be back next weekend talking about another episode of Green Lantern the Animated Series. Until then, see you next time.